Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Same scenario, same environment, but different teams. I'm your host, OG Susano, joined by my co-caster, Mick. Mick, how you doing?
Feeling even better, man. Already got to sit there, get warmed up with one series, but even then, we get to go ahead, double down, find ourselves in the second one. So maybe we talk about momentum so much on the desk about these teams, maybe we can factor in the same thing here for our cast.
Exactly, and right now we've got two teams going up against each other. It's West Virginia University versus Shenandoah University, or Shenandoah Esports. That's their team name. But, you know, we've got a bit of a difference here, coast to coast, a bit of a 3-hour difference. So, you know, one side, so still a bit of the afternoon, and on the other, it's getting really late.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to really matter too much. You obviously know this environment. We know how we are in the esports industry. The later it gets, the more energized we get, because that's usually when we're feeling our most ourselves. So, even then, we got to sit there and discuss these two teams. We got to talk about the roster, see what we're dealing with, and see what kind of players we got in our hands. And we go ahead and start things off. Before we even get there a head-to-head, look and see what kind of records we're dealing with across the board.
Yeah, we've got a very, kind of familiar record here with both teams being 6-1 in the season, and then our hard points being 9-1 for the side of West Virginia, but then Shenandoah are 11-1. And we head on over to Search and Destroy, where there's just a one-game difference of 6-1 for West Virginia, Shenandoah 5-2. Then lastly, Control with one more map difference as well. 3-1 for West Virginia, then a 2-1 for Shenandoah. Really, if I'm looking at this, all I'm really seeing is that Shenandoah is a great hardpoint team with a lot of reps. But then you can't discount West Virginia with their 9-1.
Yeah, I mean, sitting there mentioning these two teams and looking at their records across the board, I mean, we sat there and saw it in the last game. We saw that UNCW really didn't have the upper hand when it came around to stats, but there's not really too much we can factor in on that. Sure, we can look at it, we can appreciate it, and we can obviously see that one lackluster thing's going to be Shenandoah there on that 5-2 record of Search and Destroy, but it almost mirrors exactly what we saw out of UNCW, who was able to pull out that S&D against the likes of Old Dominion, so it's not going to matter too much. But what does matter is these players that are going ahead and hopping into this game and really going to be the forefront of these records and how they're going to continue them, as we can already go ahead and see who we're dealing with here on the home side.
Yeah, let's look at these rosters, because it's going to be an exciting one with both teams being so equal. But let's hop over to West Virginia right now. We've got Zero, Bruford, Ethan, and Mr. Toxic.
Oh, Mr. Toxic. Ooh, buddy. Okay. A little bit of tea bags. It's some tea bags, some body shots. Maybe any BM we can get here on the Search and Destroy, and you get a little more time to play with it. But regardless of that, I mean, all these players looking pretty, I would say, pretty confident what they got. I mean, we sat there, we've heard a couple of their names. We've heard every single one of these players' names as forecasters, because it's our job to know what they got to bring to the table. And obviously, West Virginia having themselves a pretty solid start to this season thus far and having themselves some pretty good standings just across the board. I'm going to be looking forward to see what each one of them had to provide. But even then, we got to sit there and see who they're up against in that away roster, because obviously, Shenandoah going to be some fraggers as well, having themselves the same record, having much bigger impact when it comes right to that hard point. We got to see who's really at the forefront of that.
Yeah, and on our forefront for the side of Shenandoah, we've got Toxic, Helpless, Sid, and Steve-O. So, it's going to get toxic, I think, just looking at these names here.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have a bit of some BM going around, but hey, it's just friendly banner at the end of the day, am I right?
Yeah, it most definitely is, and it all comes down to whether or not we see a team just start to curb stomp, or we see a team go ahead and really run away with everything and sit there and get themselves ahead. But we got to sit there and factor in the maps we're going to be going to for these two teams, and where we're going to see the battlefront for these guys, and whether or not it's really going to be as toxic as we expect it to be. But to go ahead, the way we ended the last series is going to be on WVU with 2 maps in a row being that same exact one on Controlled and Hardpoint, and we're just continuing the streak here, right? Again, going into the fray here on that hardpoint WVU, going back to Search and Destroy in Berlin, but that's where the differential comes into play. If we get ourselves to that 4th and 5th map, we got to sit there and start with that Control Tuscan, which we haven't seen yet tonight, and then a hardpoint on Bocage and an S&D on Desert Siege. So some more differentials and maps and modes, especially those last two, being we didn't get to see those in the first series, but I'm hoping to see we can at least go to Game 5 and see the S&D on Desert Siege, because we love it so much. And you and I think our first cast together, we had the opportunity of getting on that.
Yeah, our first time being together, we were able to cast the Desert Siege, so it'd be nice to have a little full circle moment here. But hey, I love this map pool. It is diverse to the brim. There's not a single map here that repeats itself. So I'm excited to see just how well these teams are going to just be playing, because they're both very equal in terms of the record. So, you know, if I'm the coach here, I agree with these picks. This is the safe option. You know, let's get a taste test going. Pull out the cheese tray, pull out some wine. Let's get it going here. And the first one on our list is going to be Gabatu.
So you have obviously the caster stamp of approval, but what are you going to do with it? Are you going to step up? And even then, one of these teams has to, because somebody's going to come out on a winner here in this get-go and find that first point of the series. And it all starts right here in WVU. Which team can go ahead and really continue off the momentum that we saw in that last hard point? Who's can go ahead, find themselves across the map, look for these little bit of an awkward, cheeky angles to find some free kills, find themselves getting across the map in an efficient manner, going for these avenues not really expected too much. And even then, who's going to keep control of the middle of the map for these exchanges, going from left to right in terms of these points here on the mini-map. But go ahead, I'd say as the course of the match goes on, keep your eyes on that, see where those spawns are going. But right here on the get-go is going to be just completely opposite each other, and that P1's going to be right in the middle.
Got the fight already beginning, and Helpless gets a nice opening shot, but Mr. Toxic's able to immediately just get that trade. But this fight towards the middle, not going to be too much of a problem, as Stevo now moving in. Sees one, does not get the second though. And there you go, Toxic now picking up for his fallen teammates. And a nice little trade-off here. Shenandoah will win so far, but you've got players all the way from the side of West Virginia that are starting to besiege this site, and Toxic, he's staying up, and that's beautiful to see.
A great start here for Shenandoah to go ahead and grab themselves a little bit more time onto this board, as we expect them to go ahead and have that lead there when it comes around to hard point. But even then, it's just the beginning stages here. We already see Buford able to go ahead and set up on top tower there towards that boat, able to hold things down, as you see 2 kills coming down from the side of West Virginia. Also already being stacked on top of the side. Able to go ahead and pick up those rear 8 seconds of that P1, go and get themselves within I'd say a contested kind of area to make things look a lot more doable. With the over-aggression there from Saro, not able to grab as many kills as necessitated to really grab some time on the point and give this teammate that leeway in that breathing space. Buford will definitely do that with that double kill already on the top. Able to grab a third. The man has filled himself. Let him run away with it.
He's running with it indeed. 6-0. He's got all full streaks, and he's having himself a ball. And there you go, Stevo immediately helping out the site, but there you go, Toxic immediately gets a penetration kill onto him. No problem at all, because they have full streaks now within the first 2 hard points. That's insane. So now with 20 seconds left, we need to hit this rotate and get to P3.
Most definitely do, but these two teams are just going to look to go ahead and find at least a little bit more time here on this P2 to see who can grab themselves a lead and see if they're going to get there fast enough for that next site. You can already see Mr. Toxic able to go ahead and set up for this third site, looking to go ahead and grab some time on the front end of things, as he's going to run right there into what's going to look like Helpless, and he ends up falling a little bit short. But as a compensation, the rest of Shenandoah's held down the rest of that P2, grabbed a little bit of time to buff that out, but with now everybody coming through, the glide bomb coming out from Britford, who just absolutely mowed things down on that top tower on P2, he's not really concerned about it. Can open up that space, can play off his teammates. Ethan looking for some shots as well towards the edge, but can't really find too much. Instead, just looking for this alternate avenue, looking to go ahead and grab some control in the middle of the map as the rest of his team to set up on that P3.
Yeah, great shots out of West Virginia there to be able to get a nice 3 down. Mr. Toxic and Buford, like you said, that P2 demon just making plays now. You look in the back, Ethan, nice shot onto Toxic. 75-38, Shenandoah. They did have a bit of a good grasp on this map in the first hill, but right now with the rotations not being in their favor until now, they're going to really need to step it up.
They most definitely are, and it all comes down to whether or not we can see Shenandoah get ready for this 4th point. Knowing this is going to be somewhat of a money hill, you have the setup, you have spawns that can be right there next to it, or if you do get slayed out, you just go ahead, spawn, you get right back into the fight instantaneously. But a precedent already being set by old Mr. Toxic, able to find that first frag, moving across the map, moving to move up more into that P4 to look for that fighting position, but it all comes down to whether or not he has to back up there. If he has teammates there to go work. So you have Zero over there on the edge looking for a kill as well, doubling down with Mr. Toxic, able to collapse onto the site, but no time made up just yet. Possession coming through, the fight's coming down, West Virginia slaying out and clearing this site, giving themselves a little bit more time to be playing with.
And you see right there, Toxic absolutely abhors those type of plays. He just lost it and was not able to get into it. He's going to have to be forced out back towards mid. So, Helpless. He's having a bit of a tough one here, trying to hold down the site, but you do have West Virginia with their great teamwork. Players able to just play off of each other pretty well. And Steve-O, he's helpless, and he's able to, you know, give him some assistance here. But you do have 10 seconds left of scrap. And while it's not much, it's definitely a right movement into the right direction.
It most definitely is. You can already see West Virginia also still spawning out towards that P4 section, looking to say, look, this is the best standing for us. We're going to have a really long haul to get ourselves to P5, which Shenandoah is already set up for. So they can definitely get themselves back into the game. If they pick up the majority of this time, it will be a darn near a tie game. And even then, they can also find themselves a lead. So Steve-O being at the front end of that, able to go ahead and be ahead of the combat there, find a double kill to pick things up. Finding now a third with the Automaton being a double weapon duelist. Or almost a demon at that, regardless of what you want to say that starts with a D there. But able to go ahead, find a little bit more time for the rest of his team, finding out that space. Meanwhile, you have West Virginia trying to come here from the boat, trying to go ahead and make an impact here on P2 to clear out the map a little bit more. But instead, Steve-O still on the edge, still there in the middle of the map, still finding kills left and right, still picking up time here for Shenandoah.
That is beautiful. Shenandoah in one hill have brought this game back into a 10-point range, and it's been up to Steve-O. His plays were just insane there. Now, Sid does get a big kill right there, but they will have to fight again for the top of this boat. And it looks as though you hear Glide Bomb coming down, and looks like Bruford & Co. will hide for now, but Steve-O did get that kill onto Ethan with it.
Yes, it's a great time here for West Virginia to go ahead and literally, I'd say, retaliate to some extent. Grabbing some time that's really needed, especially after Shenandoah had themselves such a massive comeback. I mean, almost West Virginia having themselves at almost a double point threshold. Shenandoah grabbing the majority of that last point and saying, look, we can go ahead and catch this game up instantaneously if need be, if really asked for. And honestly, they needed to ask for it, and they definitely found it. Their prayers have been answered, but can they follow through? Can they find more? Because Shenandoah is still now, once again, in the rear view, as we see them picking up even more and more and more, and West Virginia just looking for some kind of opportunity to get back onto this P1 that they had such a strong hold off from the get-go from.
Man, oh man, you already see right now Shenandoah are able to get back onto the hill. They do have a bit of a lead here for now. 10 seconds left, the rotation now into effect. Players from West Virginia are going to be able to hold it for now, but Steve-O, he's just circumventing these power positions, but Ethan's able to stop that one. He made sure that they need to hold Bruford once again here for this P2, because the way that they were able to just catapult themselves forward from that last rotation till now, it's going to be essential. So you see Sierra and Ethan just absolutely working together here with Bruford on the top.
Some great kills there from Ethan over there on the edge to go ahead and create some space there towards that P4 spawn. But in the meantime, you see West Virginia holding down P2 in such an efficient manner. You have it set up across the map. You have over there towards that pillar somebody stacked up as well, just holding themselves everywhere on this map, just being literally anywhere you could turn around into a corner and possibly run yourself into a member of the side of West Virginia. But as it stands right now, Shenandoah isn't really capitalizing on this too much. They're able to go ahead, make themselves relevant in this game once again. Still 15 seconds on the clock and find themselves a lead. But with West Virginia finally going ahead, striking back, picking up the scrap time, and able to contest here on this rear view, they're going to go ahead and look for these rotations and have to set up for P3. And that's going to be exactly what Mr. Toxic does. Finds these kills, already set up for it, already trying to hold down these spawns, and does a pretty good darn job. But you need to sit there and do a little bit more because your teammates are now coming for the backup.
Yeah, and you do see right now West Virginia do have a lead. 177 counting upwards to 159. Bruford, his AR work has been just absolutely crucial for their team and their holds, but Sierra, he's going to be able to help out his teammate there. You know, lighten the load, get 2 pieces, but Helpless & Co. will be moving forward, and Mr. Toxic does get over pushed. So Ethan, while he is getting a bit of a tough contest, it's no problem. Rufus and him, they're working at it. Tandem duo, making it happen, breaking that 200-point threshold. Shenandoah, they are nowhere near the site, so a rotation is in order, but it's going to be Sierra who's going to be that Reaper.
Yeah, that's a big problem here for Shenandoah. Not really reacting to that, not really trying to contest that P3 a little bit too much, because now with 9 seconds left on the board, you see all the frags coming through. You see West Virginia trying to push up the map and find the correct kills to get themselves onto this P4. And they already find 2 of them, which are just a necessity, a catalyst here to get themselves onto that side. Knowing that Bruford's still there in the back, looking to find as many engagements as possible, trying to close out as many members as possible, finds one, looks for the rotate, looks to go on this flank with the rest of Mr. Toxic there, but can find one, can find his second as well, now leaving this P4 up to just complete discussion of who can find it. With only 24 seconds remaining here for West Virginia to close things out, and Shenandoah needing an entire 80, things are looking a little bit sketchy for them, but they can definitely make up the difference if they go ahead and capitalize on the rest of this.
And you you do see right here, big fight towards the back, and that's Helpless with the 4-piece. Well, unfortunately, one was on his teammate. He's on a multi-kill right now. He's looking to establish that fourth here pretty soon. Don't see the player in the back. Waiting to anticipate maybe a movement here towards the side, which is going to happen. But unfortunately, it's Bruford. And Bruford's going to be able to stop that one. So, Toxic, they will have 10 seconds on this hill. And that is essential. That's going to put them to just stepping stone distance away.
And even then, a great setup here for West Virginia to say, look, we don't need to go ahead and be across the map now. Shenandoah is spawning towards that P4 still. We have Zero up there on the top of boat, able to find at least one, but not enough there. You only need 10 seconds left. You have to grab yourself at least 3 kills here to close things out. And Bruford just holding out time, saying, I don't really need the kills. Souls have to slow them down, find one. The rest of the team doing their job. 3, 2, 1. And it's still not closed out yet. West Virginia has to hold it at the last second. They do, and they find themselves the first round here to be up in the series and grab the first point.
That was such a close game at times, but really, I gotta, I feel like a broken record here, Mick. I gotta tip it to Bruford, man. Bruford and Sierra on that last rotation, they were insane. They worked like a tandem. Let's look at those stats real quick because, my goodness, Bruford, 37-13. That was insane to see, Mick.
Yeah, Bruford being one of those SMG players that you don't really see too much presence from SMGs usually inside of these hard points. I mean, especially in the likes of Gabutu, which is so just, I'd say, long range, so open. But, I mean, as things stood out, I mean, the guy definitely did. He sat there, made himself a factor time in and time out, as we also had the stats ready to be a little bit more in depth of what exactly happened, because we can talk about one player, but we got to see what everybody's done, what the shortcomings here were for Shenandoah, what West Virginia did just so much better, and honestly, it just comes down to hill time. When you see the split being a little bit more even across everybody, meanwhile, Sid found 0 seconds and didn't even worry about touching it.
Yeah, and with 0 seconds on the hill, that's going to be a bit of a tough one. You had Helpless. 2 minutes of hill time. That is it. That is absolutely insane. We love our OBJs and the work they do. And then look on the side of West Virginia. Ethan, a minute 54. We went 19-14 with 14 non-traded kills, being the second highest. He was definitely being that OBJ slayer. We saw some great plays out of him because not only was he staying up, he was making sure that the kills that came in from the contestants were impact and were making waves for Bruford to just get those players to the back deep end and just absolutely slay them.
Yeah, it was just a setup with that assault rifle. Able to go ahead, grab that top tower, grab a glide bomb there on that second point in the entire game to sit there and say, when should I invest this? When should I make him an impact? Do I need to wait for crosses, wait for rotations, wait for that site, a wide open one at that like P3 to go ahead and put the impact onto the field and figure out what's going on everywhere so we can make our adjustments where need be, because we didn't really see too much of that out of Shenandoah. We didn't see too many streaks. We didn't see too many players actually going off and continuing that spree to go ahead and start feeling themselves here. And that's going to be kind of a big problem when you don't find yourself really going out ahead in the slaying department, especially in terms of assault rifle, and you see the opposing side doing that, knowing you're now going to be going into a Berlin search and destroy where assault rifles have just as big a much of an impact, if not even more so, looking at these lineups, especially on that defense, having those angles to be held at such a long range where you can't really react. Things are looking scary for them.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see some sniper work as well. I know we saw in that last series just how effective a sniper on Berlin can be. So, maybe we'll see a bit of a pickup from, Toxic to be able to, hold the snipes and get some, KDs up there because, yeah, it was a bit of a tough one for them. But, hey, that just goes to show West Virginia, great teamwork all around, just plays that were within look, there are plays that are just outside of a team's boundary, and you're like, all right, nice hero plays. But West Virginia, those plays were exactly within that sphere of influence.
Yeah, I just always kind of being on the same page to some extent. I mean, even then, we saw West Virginia just kind of went in 3v4. So almost like what we could have seen the last map, but instead having that 4-player be more of a catalyst here for the next site, saying, look, I'm going to set up towards the middle, knowing how influential this is, knowing that literally it is a zigzag pattern across the map here when you're looking at the hard point rotations. To hold down the middle, keep your eyes on what's going on. Even if you die, you still know how many players are probably swinging on the rear view. When you have that kill cam to work off of, when you have these players in that little tiny seam where you see yourself falling down and dying, you know if either 2 players or 3 players are there to follow him up to know where the entire team is to sit there and give off the intel. And we saw West Virginia just capitalize on that. Oh, okay, there's 3 players there and we're on P2 and they're looking at the middle of the map to rotate across the P3. Go ahead, turn your eye over there. Get at least 2 of those kills, reset them all the way back to P4 spawn and try again, buddy. It was just those kind of collapses that West Virginia had that was really making the impacts there. And obviously, Bruford being at I'd say the front end of them, being that intel most of the time, and even sometimes slaying out before he really falls first to make that much more of an impact, to make the job that much harder. But even then, on Search and Destroy, those same factors are going to be a common denominator on every single round. Whether attack, whether defense, as we find ourselves going into Berlin now, it's going to be a lot more impactful when you only have yourself 1 life to deal with.
Yeah, we'll have to see now, because Berlin being our next destination on the map here for our Search and Destroy. You know, with both of these teams being very much close quartered in terms of just stats, I think this is going to be an interesting one, just like that first one, indeed.
I most definitely agree. And it all comes down to the real setups, whether or not we see these teams really stepping things up, because we sat there and said it last time, which team can find themselves in offense and defense back and forth, and that was obviously the losing side for that map. So that's a little bit of a, I'd say, a point of contention right now, but you already grabbed yourself an intel knowing that it may not be Ethan that you know specifically, but somebody is right there around B as you get that bomb down, and Toxic's gonna find that first blood.
Yeah, the first blood being very nicely done by Toxic, and there you go, they're going to be able to get the bomb down. West Virginia, unfortunately, Sierra is going to be your sniper for tonight, but Ethan nicely nade, but not going to be able to finish off that player just yet in the bomb. But Steve-O, he's running around right now doing a bit of some shots, but there you go, off screen, another player taken down from the side of West Virginia. With 20 seconds left and not a lot of options, there comes a quick scope from Sierra, but it's just not enough.
Most definitely is. It's still clip, though. I mean, you sit there and can brag, say, oh, I had a quick scope, you know, in a CCL match, and that's always something fun to say. But even then, you still got to win the round. And West Virginia not coming out right here. Shenandoah having themselves a pretty good, I would say, collapse on each one of these players. Having themselves that first blood, just playing off of it slow and steady, looking for whatever player is going to pop their head up next and be unfortunate enough to fall themselves 6 feet under. So as we see West Virginia now going on to the attacking side, we got to see somewhat of a change of pace. We got to see them go ahead, find possibly a different side to go for, start hitting that A instantaneously, or even with how much assault rifle presence they have, they're probably going to double down on B, and I expect Shenandoah to be prepared for it.
Yeah, and right now, Bruford, he has that long angle, but Toxic does see him first. Very nicely done. Nice little pixel peek, but Steve-O, he's got the sniper in hand, and he's going to be found out. So, position compromised. He's going to be throwing a nade back in response. And Ethan, well, he'll be able to get the bomb down freely. There's something that these two teams need to note is that they're going to need to be playing some better, you know, pre-plant strategies here, because when it comes down to the wire, it's from either team from the CCL that we've seen. It's just not very good pro-plant strategy. But Helpless, and he does find him. Oh my gosh, that had me worried for a second.
Yeah, had me worried as well, but I mean, you got to sit there and consider. I'm still a little worried about Shenandoah getting this diffused down. They've sat there, spent so much time looking for a setup, looking for a collapse onto the site that they haven't made a move onto the bomb yet. You only have 13 seconds left. You got to make a play here within the next 3 and get on that bomb, and there it is. Is Sig going to be prepared? Is he going to be there to find the kills because nobody else is on site? Nobody's finding the kills. Bruford can't really buy the time out, and right in front of his face, we see the bomb get defused, and Shenandoah find themselves a second.
He ran out of ammo. Oh my gosh, there was literally just 3, maybe 4, probably just 3 bullets in the chamber, and it wasn't enough. I don't even know how to feel after that one, Mick. Like, you just saw the bomb get taken down right in front of your eyes when you could have been the deciding factor there.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the setup, I mean, you could have sat there, found that kill, bought that time, because we sat there and saw how late it came through. I mean, with 10 seconds left on the clock, you bide that time with already being on that halfway point, you know you have a guaranteed win. It doesn't matter if everybody dies or not. But once again, that stun grenade coming out to back B, you know a player of West Virginia is rushing up on it. Shenandoah, if you're one of their players, are going to make the reaction. Are you going to find the kill? You look for a frag pick, but you can't sit there and make it with the barrel because we've already had the backup. But there it is. Helpless already getting that plant down, looking to try and get a free move off the site with the backup of Sid, keeping an eye with the AR.
Yeah, very nicely done. Once again, playing within their bounds. Looks as though it's going to be Steve-O being the first blood taken down. Ethan will get him. Mr. Toxic trying to get towards the top, but Helpless will stay alive in the hill. Sid, he does know that Sierra is back there. Going to get some shots on him, but can Helpless help out, or Will these 20 seconds be enough? But looks as though helpless. Oh my goodness, just outplays the maneuver. Now, 15 seconds left. And once again, Mick, we're back at this scenario where these players just need to play better post-plant.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely with you. I mean, every single time it's these teams just being very lackluster on the post plant. But this time around, we see Shenandoah being on the other side of the spectrum, not really able to have the best post plant there. West Virginia getting themselves onto the board. So not as much of a swipe as we expected earlier. Shenandoah kind of being a little bit lackluster this time around, not finding the necessary kills. And even then, going ahead, making this game a little bit closer. So as the switch around comes out, West Virginia now gets themselves to the attacking side. Is their only win going to be on a defense in this entire series, or at least in this map, or is it going to come somewhere else? They've grabbed themselves a hard point, but as soon as the game slows down, and as soon as you may find yourself in a map 5, if you go ahead and slack enough to get to that point, you could find yourself being in a pretty rough predicament if you can't pull out enough rounds here.
Agreed, and that had me worried there, but Sid, nice kill onto Bruford there, but Ethan will be playing towards the bottom of this train station. So he does look out, notices where his fallen teammate was. Mr. Toxic needs to land these shots and fortunately does not. So it's going to give off information that there's a backwards movement here towards the back door end of the site. Mr. Toxic will be the one to look in, but the moment he goes in, it's helpless there. And so helpless is going to peek out, and he does get him.
So a good exchange there, already making it a 2-for-1 now in the favor of Shenandoah. Now making it 3 against 1, but Ethan being the last man alive, able to go ahead and find that first pick and pick up an MP40 as well. So now having 2 weapons at his disposal, a pretty easy switch up. An acceleration for both ranges of combat, all kinds of predicaments to be putting into. You still got to get that bomb down. You still got to make a play eventually. And with that silent plant kind of coming into factor there, with the old, I didn't even notice the Valentine's skin on the bomb. Yeah. So I kind of like that. But as nice as that is, we got to see even better plays out of Ethan to really clutch up this round. So he needs to play it slow and steady, kind of hold that long angle there. He knows that Toxic is on that site, finds a couple bullets, but he doesn't sense the flank. He can dance for a couple bullets, but he can't go ahead and survive long enough to make that round impact. And we see Shenandoah obviously probably making out the rest of this round as they found themselves in a 3v1, expected to win it, even with the player drop.
Yeah, and really, you got to tip it to the side of Shenandoah. That was just a bit of a tough one. They almost had isolated kills. That would have been really tough if Toxic loses that right there. That's going to be a bit of a hard one because he immediately felt the bullets coming in from his left. And he was aiming for the window. So he would have immediately escaped and would have re-wrapped for maybe a bit of a more slower approach. But Shenandoah, they now have 3 rounds on the board. West Virginia, like you said earlier, when it came down to this slower game, clearly it's a bit of a tough one.
It most definitely is, but even then, they can't on top. They have themselves now 3. West Virginia need to step up and find themselves that first blood, and as I sit there and mention it, it comes right onto the game. You see Cyro able to find that first pick, able to make sure the kind of advantage goes to their direction, but they just need to play for crosses now. Play that defense. Don't get overzealous. Don't look for any second frags or sit there and try and find another trade for one person to be the hero. Well, the hero of that previous kill is now going to go ahead and fall, making it a 3v3 once again. And Sid has a pretty good setup to possibly find another kill. But as the bullets come out, don't find the target, you at least know the intel of where a player could be. And that B may not be the best hit if you don't have those right angles.
Exactly. And right now, it looks as though that he's going to be moving his way in. That's helpless. Nobody's able to contest him, so he will be able to get this plant down freely. It's a 3v3 with a lot of line of sights. You do see Toxic moving in towards the back of the train. And this is going to be a big one because if his AR can just stop these players from moving into the hut, that'll help out a big time. But Mr. Toxic, he knows that player's back there.
Most definitely does. I mean, it's such a default setup. You expect somebody to be there. If you had a smoke grenade, you definitely kind of go ahead and rush it in. But instead, you don't have that resource at your disposal. You go ahead rushing. You find yourself going 6 feet under. That's Toxic with 1. You see Ethan once again being the last man alive, trying to find a defuse. But, I mean, with so many players set up, he has to sit there and make a move right now. With only 12 seconds remaining, he can't make the plays. He can't find the kills. And he can't find the round for his team as we see Shenandoah going up 4-1.
Yeah, this has been a very different game for the side of West Virginia. They've had way too many, just a lot of opportunities just squandered, blundered, if you will. So now with it being 4-1, West Virginia are going to have a bit of a tough one. But if they can get this next round, they will put themselves in a prime position to win the swing round. But we'll have to see when we get there because this round is going to be a big one for the side of Shenandoah.
It most definitely will, and this is kind of where the swing round comes into play. You sit there, obviously, have yourself a massive momentum shift. You have Shenandoah being up 4-1, but, I mean, making it to where the game could be at a halfway threshold for West Virginia to step things up and show the game's that much closer than expected, or Shenandoah put the pressure on saying, you're now at match point. You have to play flawless Call of Duty here. And even then, they were able to step up, find themselves at first frag, making it look much better, finding the first 2 at that, now making it a 4v2, and a free bomb plant to go on top of it, knowing a couple of those frags were already on site. It's the last man standing. It's going to be Steve-O, and I don't know what kind of play he can make.
Yeah, there really isn't. And it looks as though Steve-O does find Sierra, but one moment you take down one pillar, the other ones find the location, the momentum. Now onto him, and that's going to be Bruford. Going to be able to take him down. So now West Virginia will put up their second round overall, and they enter the swing round with a nice momentum in their hand.
And if their first attacking round as well, because that first round of theirs was only on the defense. So they finally went ahead and showed their kind of adversity, showing that they can sit there and win on both sides of the field, but the consistency isn't there. We haven't seen any rounds of them since then. I mean, they've only found 2, obviously, compared to Shenandoah's 4. They got to do this a little bit more. They got to figure out what worked for them on the defense, and I can go ahead and say that what's been working for them is getting those first bloods, playing it slow and steady, or at least 2 collapses from an awkward angle from both sides of the map to find a pick here and there, create some confusion in the likes of Shenandoah and say, what's our next move? Where do we play? Well, slow it down because they're going to have the bomb in hand. So make sure you can find those first frags. Make sure your AR can really make the impact here, get that first one, and then slow everybody else down and wait for a collapse for the rest of your squad to back you up.
Yeah, and right now you do see Bruford. He does have a bit of a peek in the mid. He does see Steve-O. Teammate comes in. That's Sierra, able to help him out. Now 3v4. 50 seconds left on the overall timer. West Virginia are on the defense right now, so they cannot be overzealous in their approach right now. Because if they lose this man count vantage, it's going to be a bit of a tough one. They can't give up that bomb site, Mick. I just have to stress that. Do not give it up.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm definitely with you. One thing they couldn't have given up was that glide bomb they went ahead and invested earlier. I mean, we sat there, saw Toxic already put it out, not really able to find the intel needed. You go ahead and see where the players are, but you can't capitalize on that and find the first blood. Instead, you do find yourself a bomb plant, so that's a pretty good start. With only 15 seconds remaining, West Virginia has to make a move instantaneously because it is Toxic all by his lonesome. He has no real pressure to sit there and do anything, but actually the bomb didn't go down. He's sitting there knowing that it's not nearby. I was a little confused about that, actually. So, I mean, to make a play with only 1 second left on the clock, the guy's just going to play it slow, not feed streaks, and just kind of give it over to West Virginia. So a great step up for them, able to find that third round now. And once again, that swing round coming in their favor, saying, look, we are closing this gap. It's now a 1-point game, and nobody's at match point. It's still anyone's.
Yeah, and there you go. They won the swing round, so they're going to be having that momentum in their hand. They've had the last 2 rounds. Shenandoah, they've been, they were very dominant right at the start, but they still are up. This will be the round to determine if their, lead can get contested or if they can solidify a bit of a bigger lead. But right now, helpless. He's looking around for this player. He knows Ethan's here, but Ethan, they are going to peek out, and he gets one, but Ethan's able to pick up the trade. So he knows that the player's in the back there. Toxic does some opening shots. Not able to get away fully, but Sid off screen, nice kill right there. That's a 3v2 now. Ethan finds Toxic. Now it's back to the 2v2, and it's getting interesting, Mick.
Most definitely is, especially when you can see that bomb already making a move towards that A site. Trying to go ahead and get a plant down. It's going to be Ethan having that bomb in hand, being the top frag for the side of West Virginia right now, being the forefront of getting that bomb down. But knowing he's going up against Steve-O, knowing there's a player still in the area, he has to find this kill. He has to at least sit there and get the idea of where they are. Already seen a man jump out the window, getting shots coming from the opposing building on the opposite side. Man says, I need to go prone. I need to play this slow. Well, if you're his teammate, you need to be sitting there watching Engel to protect him, because instead, it's just going to be a free double for Steve-O, and that's going to be a free round for Shenandoah to get to that match point.
Yeah, Shenandoah, that was insane. It was just snap, snap, and snap. No way was he going to lose that one. So now it's 3-5 Shenandoah at the match point. This is great to see for the side of Shenandoah. West Virginia, while they did have a bit of a shining light with their second wind, it looks as though that it's going to be a bit of a harder one than they thought.
It most definitely will. I mean, even then sitting at 5-3, Shenandoah able to go ahead and find one eventually as an answer to West Virginia. It all comes down to whether or not this follows suit now. Does West Virginia find 2 before we get right back to that 1 where the rounds could double down and we could see these players on the same side as what they initially ended on? So I mean, you can't let them get to that stage if you're Shenandoah. You are already down a point inside the series. You are down a map, and you need to sit there and make sure the mode that you were kind of expected to win at, West Virginia doesn't step things up. You already see them finding the first 2 kills. Hapless coming in there on a flank on the A side, able to find 1, but knowing that the player, the bomb, is now down still in Hapless's hands, he needs to find a site to take it to and make an impact off.
Yeah, we do see some movement right here from Mr. Toxic. He will be able to hold the back of this site for now. Helpless and Toxic on the other side will be a bit of an isolation, but they are within range to be able to get a trade. So with 35 seconds left, while it is a bit of a, you do have a couple rounds you can throw away, you don't want to give any sort of momentum or hope to the side of West Virginia. So Toxic, nice shots, gets Sierra. Now brings it back to the 2v2. And so now they will be able to move towards the bomb.
So slow and steady is the name of the game. You still don't have the bomb down. You've already elongated this timer extremely out. I mean, you have sat there and stretched this game out as much as you can, but you've at least confused the likes of West Virginia, and you grab yourself a free plant on A. But are you going to make the same mistake that they did in that last round? Are you not going to have the setup? Are you not going to have the cross? Well, you're not going to have yourself a death on your hands just yet, because you do go ahead and get a couple bullets to come out. But Ethan, now on the flank, the guy was victim to the last flank to come through on this A side. Can he read out this one? No, he cannot. Toxic being the last one alive. Now with 30 seconds left, finds the first kill, is looking for the second one and trying to get that defuse as well.
He's trying to keep the team alive, Mr. Toxic. He's 5-4 right now. He knows that the player's in the back here. Oh, but he will unfortunately give him his back, and Shenandoah will take this map 6-3.
Man, there it is. Shenandoah coming out on top, able to find themselves this round, or at least this map. So, I mean, it was to be expected when they had themselves such a strong start. But, I mean, to go ahead and double down, and West Virginia to have themselves somewhat of a bite back, finding themselves 3 is what it looked like it could have continued into. I mean, with the look and how they were finding themselves some first frags again, finding some even exchanges, looking extremely well over the course of this map. We just didn't really see them able to step things up, be a lot more consistent with it on both sides of the field, because we said it earlier. Their first round was on defense, their second was on offense. Everything just kind of came up to the luck of the draw. Whether or not you made a pressure into a point of the map, you ran into a player and won it, there was no real intel off the get-go, because every single time you went for B, we saw West Virginia getting stunned out. And the Shenandoah player saying there is somebody here, obviously, and they're pretty close. Let's collapse on that, get ourselves a guaranteed first blood to make this job a heck of a lot easier for us. Or at least get ourselves a defuse and put the pressure and the ball into their court. So just not enough here for West Virginia, I'd say, out of search and destroy. When the game slows down, they tend to as well, and it's just not exactly favorable every time. But maybe, with control being the next mode that we're going to have here soon, they could go ahead and switch things up again.
Yeah, in a new location as well. Let's talk about those stats real quick from that post map here, because 3-6 is a bit of a tough one, but hey, you do have some hope with now the series being 1-1 at a true neutral. Let's look. Toxic 10-5 with 7 non-traded kills. That was beautiful to see out of him. And Helpless as well, 9-7 with 7 non-traded kills. You could definitely see where the bulk of the muscle is in that team.
Yep.
And we head over to West Virginia, and it's a bit more of an even standing with only a 2-3 kill differential from their teammates Sierra and Ethan, 7-8 and 7-7 with both 5 non-traded kills. That's great to see out of the side of West Virginia. Definitely a lot of teamwork, but what they say, united we stand, united we fall.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you look at the scoreboard, West Virginia found the majority of these first bloods every single time. I mean, they were looking outstanding at the start of every single round, just being very explosive. But as everything else kind of panned out over the course of the round, things were going a little bit slower. We saw them kind of being a little bit more confused, saying, all right, well, we can go ahead and hit a site, find ourselves a kill, knowing that somebody's probably going to be at one side or the other. Afterwards, they sit there, grab that kill, and say, nobody else is running at us. What do we do now? You need to figure that out. That's your job. Yeah. And they just never did it. So, I mean, things like that, obviously not really being too good to really find themselves to move on to that next stage, move themselves onto that second point here in the series. But even then, we're going right into control. We already got ourselves ready for it. And we can already go ahead and set this up to find ourselves going to this Tuscan control, because that's going to be the point of interest. That's going to be the plays we make. Because we sat there and saw earlier in the last map, WVU control is going to be everybody's kind of move. That's what everybody wants to do. But let's go ahead and take a look at the maps and see what exactly we're going to be setting up, because we have a little bit more. Afterwards, we're obviously going to go to that map 4, and that's going to be hardpoint bocage. We already see these teams find themselves at a 1-1. It all comes down to if anybody can double down, and if they don't want to go back to that search and destroy, somebody needs to step up and close this thing out. And it all comes down to right here, and this is where it starts to control. The game being a lot faster, Tuscan being a lot more aggressive, a lot more SMG heavy, where we've seen a lot of assault rifle plays today, those are going to have to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, there's going to be a need to be some sort of shift, and with Tuscan being our next one, I think this is going to be a very good one in terms of every role can shine on this map. You have that classic 3-lane. You also have a lot of areas of interest where the ARs can shine, but then you also have those close quarters towards fire, bottom church, and even towards the right side of the map where you get in towards the bottom of stairs. There are so many points of interest for the subs and the ARs that this is going to be a great shot for either team to really take the momentum here.
It most definitely is. It's going to show who has the more powerful SMG play, because as we have that guaranteed 4th map, that's going to be a huge factor when it comes around to Bocage as well. The aggression that you have to really hold down, finding yourself in these tiny little sites on this wide open map, but with a lot of buildings obstructing every single one of them, a lot of those points taking place inside those buildings, or at least between them, you got to have your SMG's players step up. And this is a perfect place for them to go ahead and get that warm up. But whoever finds themselves warming up quicker and having that momentum a little bit faster and getting a little bit hotter, you want to find yourself a little bit too hot to touch, have yourself on fire, and just take that away to burn down that 4th map.
Yeah, 4th map going to be a bit of a tough one here, but you know, really when I'm thinking about both of these sides, because we've seen Western Virginia in their shining moments of a respawn, but then you also have Shenandoah, who are much better when it comes to preserving their life and playing as a team that we saw on that search and destroy. But now with Control being a nice true medium for this is going to be a real good melting pot to decide who's going to be that one.
Yeah, it most definitely is. So I think when it comes around to Tuscan, it all comes down to also whether or not we sit there and find a team winning an attacking side. And that's usually obviously a huge differential, because not a lot of teams really find themselves finding that generally because of how difficult it is and how defense-sided and Control is just generally. I mean, we only have 2 maps in the pool. We don't have a very diverse Control map set. So, I mean, knowing these 2 maps, WVU is going to be those assault rifle heavy teams. Tuscan is going to be literally the complete opposite end of the spectrum, with how many back alleys you got, with how many buildings you got to push through, with how many kind of just alternate angles you need to play, and you need to have your SMGs clear those corners instantaneously with how many there are. You need to be set up for that. And I think, honestly, that the way West Virginia, they've showed themselves to be pretty prominent with those assault rifles when the game speeds up a little bit. Shenandoah could have the upper hand here with their defense and how well they looked in terms of S&D defense that they just translate over.
Yeah, hopefully that can translate over indeed. And you know, I'm looking at the stats right now for both of these guys, and Control seems to be like a good one to go in as we hop in right now. I'm excited because Tuscan's one of my favorite maps here, and I've kind of expressed that a little bit earlier with it being a good map for, you know, both roles here. And, you know, it reminds me of like Checkmate from last year, you know, with both sides can really shine here on this map.
Yeah, so, I mean, with everything coming down to this map right here, this is obviously going to be a huge shift in momentum to see which teams. I feel like whoever wins this are going to win the hard point. That's a bet I'm kind of willing to make, but as casters, we can't really make bets. But I can at least put in the predictions without any money on the line to say that whoever wins this will probably go ahead, find themselves that next hard point as well when these SMGs start filling themselves. And it all starts right here. We see, obviously, that Shenandoah is going to start on this defense, so maybe the momentum could start on their side with how defense is so much easier.
Exactly. And right now, Western Virginia are going to be getting onto the A side. Toxic, though, not allowing it to happen, but Sierra will be able to stay up, so they do have a bit of some influence on this A. Stevo, very nicely done with the MP40, get some good shots opening up, but does notice there's a bit of some opposition across the aisle. Able to run away for now, helpless. Looking for this player as well, but there is a contest, so he knows that there's at least one player. He's going to force himself out of his comfort zone, but they do know that Bruford is there, and well, Ethan's going to get taken down as well. So now 24-27, Shenandoah so far being the leader.
And having a pretty good hold across the map as well. No time accumulated on either side. Only 53 seconds remaining on the clock. Usually you would at least see a tick by now from the initial attacking team being much more aggressive in finding at least one tick. But as you only see one player standing on site, and the congestion coming through, Helpless finding 2, now making a 3rd, and Stevo there to back him up. He's going to go ahead and make sure to capitalize on this. Now sitting at 26-20, with West Virginia not finding a single tick of time across the map, and Bruford trying to go for some kind of alternate route. you don't see too much success out of it. So that could be a translation over to some time on B, but with only 34 seconds remaining, you go ahead, get the hold down on the side. You need to sit there and be worried about your lives because those are melting away as you're a little too concerned about being on the point.
Being on the point right now, and you do see an unfortunate teammate coming in from Bruford onto Ethan. And there's 30 seconds left overall with 15 to 23. Steve-O, nice nade, immediately finds the player in mid. But it looks as though some nice shots coming in from Toxic as well. Like you said earlier, this defense being a much more lopsided, but Steve-O, he looks for the last player, and Helpless is able to help him out there. So 20 seconds left, 11 to 22. And even if you are able to grab this A, it is very bleak in terms of live counter. So it looks as though the Shenandoah will have a much easier hold for this round one.
Yeah, that's a big problem with such a massive start right here for Shenandoah to have themselves such a large life differential right now, just dwindling down even more for the likes of West Virginia. I mean, this isn't going to be a very good standing for them if they do find themselves going to that overtime. I mean, you already see the holds being outstanding from Shenandoah, find themselves so many kills. Helpless going off now, so again 9-4, make it 9-5. But even in the meantime, he's still feeling himself, being the SMG player once again. I sat there and mentioned who's going to heat up. Well, the guy seems to be getting pretty close to 5.
Yeah, and you do see there 6 to 16, Mick. A 10 life difference. They will be able to take that first one onto A, but with 6 lives, it is a mountainous effort. And right now, Ethan, he's hiding in mid, waiting for anyone to overextend. He knows that these Shenandoah players can get a bit over in terms of their defense, but I don't think they're going to do that now. I think they've learned, but there you go. Toxic immediately gains taken out by Bruford. This is their chance to maybe get some life counter down in their favor, but looks as though Ethan's going to get stuck.
Yeah, just trying to do a little bit more here. I mean, West Virginia, they got to go ahead and slay out at least 4 players for every single one of their lives remaining. So, I mean, these guys, they are all in a 1v4. They all have to make a massive clutch. And Steve-O not even finding that first pick and say you get the turn to come around on West Virginia. But now a 2v11. Things are looking extremely bleak for Mr. Toxic and Ethan, who are the last 2 players remaining, trying to find whatever they can, trying to squeeze out some time or at least pause that timer and find a kill to back it up. But just nothing is there in front of them. So Shenandoah able to find themselves that first round completely off frags alone, knowing that A side did slip up there towards the rear end. But still, with so much time and so little lives, it's just not going to matter.
Yeah, not going to matter indeed. And that was really great out of the side of Shenandoah. Really showed us their slaying capability as a team, winning the live counter fight. And, well, now they are going to have to show us what they can do on the attack. And right now it looks as though we might be getting a bit of a split push from the side of West Virginia, which is a bit of a smart one, you know. Don't want to put too many eggs in one basket and end up losing one. But with a 4-man push towards A, this is going to be a very tough one. But Helpless, nice opening shot onto Mr. Toxic.
Most definitely is. I mean, already making an even exchange for both sides, and Shenandoah already picking up a tick of progress towards the A side. They're looking outstanding here. A much better start than what we saw to West Virginia, and even then they were capitalizing on it. Able to find so many kills here, create some more space, find that second tick as well. I mean, they are looking outstanding, but they got to capitalize on this. They got to find a little bit more because it's going to be an absolute bloodbath for that B side as A is already going to be finished with 2 minutes and 19 seconds. Go ahead and register that number with how quickly they started here for Shenandoah to capitalize and find themselves a second side.
And you do look right now, nice little fight towards the top, 25 to 26. 2 minutes and 4 seconds left. Shenandoah very smartly got that first one onto A, but Sid nicely done, able to help with the kills. Now pushes through that left lane, but there's a bit of a fight here from Ethan. Gets nicely done, now makes his way through to the spawn, but Mr. Toxic, he's gained some flak from the back, and that's Sierra who's able to help him out.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a great start here for Shenandoah, but the thing is they're going to capitalize on it. Have themselves now to 1 life differential where it's not all that big a deal. They got to make sure to push on the side at least eventually, and everybody is just opting to run right here through the side house where what would usually be P5. So, I mean, West Virginia able to just go ahead and hold that out. Say, we obviously know where you're coming from. Steve is going to drop that glide bomb, get intel where everybody else is, but it's not going to matter. Bruford fighting 1, has the exchange there and the help from Helpless, but I mean, the site is still wide open. You have yourself a 2-life advantage if you're West Virginia, and you're just holding things down, just spread across the map, winning every single fight, making this job a heck of a lot harder for them.
Yeah, very heck of a lot harder indeed, and 20 to 16 right now in terms of the life count, and West Virginia are up, but Shenandoah looks as though they're going to be making some nice movements through the left side of Church into the alleyway. Ethan, unfortunately, does not peek out at the right time. Sid, though, is still there, and he's going to be able to get that one immediately. Nice kill indeed. That's a 4 down, and Now they've pushed these Shenandoah players back to the spawn so they can move up freely with no worry. And looks like Bruford's going to be the one to maybe get one and maybe two and gets away with his life from the third.
So yeah, great standing here for Shenandoah to go ahead and get themselves at least a little bit more influence across the map, but it just kind of went south a little too quickly. You sit there, see them all getting slayed out, not really mattering too much, getting to the stage of desperation with 24 seconds left on the clock. They got to make a move and make it instantaneously because West Virginia is having a much better standing. Sure, Shenandoah had a much more explosive start, but they're almost looking exactly how West Virginia looked on that initial hard point. Thing is, I got to step things up and at least here eventually because the life differential is looking a lot more bigger for the likes of West Virginia, making that overtime look a lot more bleak for Shenandoah if they do want to find themselves on that defense. But Sid, finally being on site, able to find at least a tiny bit of time, but not really having the backup there, not able to accumulate time all that quickly. 5 seconds on the clock. You see the glide bomb coming down from Bruford, and this could be an easy pick for him, but even then, he's not worried about it. Mr. Toxic finds that kill. He's trying to find a pick there on the edge, but with no time left on the clock, it's not even going to matter.
No, indeed. And right there, that was very nicely done. And right now, it's 1-1 in terms of a live counter. And right now, excuse me, but I had a bit of a cough there. But it looks as though we've got a 1-1 and a true neutral. But that defense, I know you talked about it, Mick, but it's just so rough to see just it being so strongly presented.
I mean, I'd say definitely strong, but not overwhelmingly by any means. I mean, we didn't see too much of differential. We saw a lot more influence on the site when it came around to Shenandoah, but we saw a lot more influence on the kills when it came around to West Virginia. Only thing is that they're on completely opposite ends of the spectrum where they want to integrate those play styles. With the site being a little bit more of a back-end dot of West Virginia, they still find it eventually, but they just don't have the life differential there. But speaking of life differential, Helpless already making that job a heck of a lot easier, able to find the first 2 frags of this round, make it a 29-28, make that a 27-29 as Shenandoah is holding onto the side, able to go ahead and tick that time back down. But with that one tick already being accumulated up and stacked on top, you already find that time being locked in, and you're looking at Stevo on this flank, able to find 2.
Yeah, very nicely done, but gets shot out by Bruford. There you go now, Toxic on the bottom of the church. Very nicely done from Bruford. He's still making plays up there, but you do see Toxic right now. He is maybe being able to make the move. Stevo gets the kill into Bruford, stops that kill Taj. 22-26 right now, a minute left, and his A site being a big problem for the side of Shenandoah. And there you go, Bruford immediately stops Stevo.
And if Stevo found that kill, man, he could have found a massive flank to be working with as well to go ahead and just create so much space for the rest of the team to get themselves onto that A side. But even then, he doesn't even need it. Toxic able to find one, holding out this side, able to contest it as well, making the job a heck of a lot harder. Problem is, the time is not ticking down. You have not killed that player, and you're relying on Helpless to find that kill to make the job that much easier and go ahead and get that time in reversal. But instead, you see West Virginia finding those frags, finding the respective kills, going ahead and clearing out the rest of the site, able to go ahead and possibly what looks like ending out this A. So as you bring your attention over to the B site for the likes of West Virginia and Shenandoah and the audience and us, we got to see what kind of approach we see Shenandoah trying to make to hold it down and where West Virginia really wants to take their route to get there. But even then, you already see a player back there towards spawn. You got to take care of him first because Stevo's going to be a problem. So you want to make sure to get the rotations out. You're now still stuck on A. You need to sit there and make your way to B eventually.
You got to make your way right now. And for the minute 25, this is plenty of time, 16-20 in terms of the live count. So you are at a ample amount. Let's see right here as Mr. Toxic does see Toxic across. Gets the kill. Very nicely done. Battle toxicity going to Mr. Toxic. And now he's going to be able to move in through this mid. This is free real estate, ladies and gentlemen. But you do see that Sid is above him right now. So he will see Helpless, but Helpless will be able to immediately respond in kind. So now with a minute left and 12-16, we're back at a true neutral again.
And even then, I mean, West Virginia just playing this slow and steady, which I can respect when you're trying to go for a different angle to get onto this B site, looking for a flank or something, but you're taking a little bit too long. You have 42 seconds left on the clock. You have yourself only 10 lives to be working with. You keep on hitting this A site flank time in and time out. And sure, it's maybe working to some extent every single time, but you are investing so much utility, all your frags to get onto the side when you haven't even touched it yet as some kind of reward, as some kind of trade-off. Because with only 24 left, only 9 lives remaining, Helpless here on the flank, able to find one, looking for a second, and just barely slips out with his life. It all comes down to whether or not they can capitalize on this. And even then, Shenandoah slaying out, making it not even a big differential.
Yeah, and you do see right there, 11 seconds left. West Virginia, unfortunately, are not able to get onto the site. And, well, you know, once again, we're back at this, you know, defense being the name of the game. And, well, Shenandoah will take this round.
I mean, as expected, we see the defense go ahead and go in and back and forth with that mutual handshake of respect to say that, look, that's usually how this is going to pan out. Biggest thing is going to be the life differential. Once again, if Shenandoah finds himself a very, very early site, I want to see them hitting across the map once again. And I want to see a little bit more of a split because West Virginia, their plan was a little bit too readable. Say, let's go for a 4-hit on A when we only had 20 seconds left. Well, that's great and all because you have 7 lives, you can trade things out, but that's if everything goes flawless and it goes according to plan. This is Call of Duty. That's never the case. Otherwise, you'd find yourself a 3-0 series already and the game would be over. You need to sit there and come up with a different avenue. You need to come up with different plans. And there's at least a contingency there in the middle with Bruford. Finding that first frag, able to go ahead and close things out, make some space there in the middle. But Shenandoah just following through, already able to find so much time here on A with 2 ticks of progress, closing on this third. They're going to have so much time once again to go ahead and to B.
Yeah, this is a great amount of time for them. And looks as though the contest does come in, but it's a no problem. 2 minutes, 20 seconds now being the timer. Helpless makes the move into the sights, but Bruford, nice little 2-piece there. Makes it a third, and that's going to push these players back. But Steve-O, he's ready to go. He immediately flipped the switch on them, flipped the script, if you will. 22-25, 2 minutes left. Make it feels like we're going to be here forever.
I think we definitely are. I think this game could definitely go to a 5th if we see the likes of Shenandoah not able to close things out, because West Virginia definitely stepping up in the killing department, able to go ahead and hold down their ground. But Steve-O doing a great job in the back, just being an absolute nuisance, able to find kill after kill, making it now a 4 streak. The guy is dwindling down lives, but in the meantime, none of his teammates had touched the B site until finally when I mentioned it, it's almost like they heard me to say, oh crap, we forgot about it. Well, get some time on there, buy yourself that win that you need to go ahead and close out this map and get yourself the advantage. But instead, you gave so much time over that Bruford has to set up now, can find the kills, go ahead and slay out that entire side, now opening things wide open for the likes of West Virginia to just dwindle it down back to nothing, with West Virginia having 17 to hold this out.
Yeah, and you do notice right now, this is a big fight that's going to be coming in with a glide bomb from Steve-O. Ethan does notice that there's a player in and slides in. Very nicely done. Able to immediately find that player out, but oh man, unfortunately slides into Helpless and loses his life. And this attack from the side of Shenandoah, this is the most that we've seen advancements on this B zone. Could this be the benchmark for the rest of the series? But there comes another glide bomb, but just in time for the second tick.
I appreciate the safety of the likes of West Virginia to not really get too overzealous or really stick their heads out to find that kill. Problem is, you had the rest of the team still there to back things up. It's now 12-10. You have 1:16 left on the clock. Shenandoah just needs to hold this out. I think they have themselves a massive lead in terms of what's left in this round, knowing they have equal lives. And even then, that just diminished right in front of them. They had so much time to be working with. Helpless is now looking for a flank, and he can't find it. Steve-O went ahead and fell as well, so he went ahead and got sent all the way back across the map when he was just making himself at home in the enemy spawn. But now it's Sid's turn. He wants to find the respective kills. He's going to make the call that's now a 3v3 on that site. But the problem is Steve-O's going there as well, so it's actually a 3v2. You can't make the plays as much as you need to, and you can't even push a spawn to find the kills. Now making it a 10-7 as West Virginia could close this one out.
Yeah, West Virginia are in position here to just hold this defense 9-5, but Sid, very nicely done. Helpless helping him out as well. And it looks as though this fight towards Church is going to be a big one. 30 seconds left. And looks as though Mr. Toxic does see Sid. Gets him with the stun, but it's not going to be too much here. Ethan, nicely done. Stops Helpless. Now, no more respawns remaining for Shenandoah. And there you go, Bruford. Nice little 2-piece. That'll put them down to 2-8. And it looks as though that the Western Virginia will be able to stay alive for another round.
Yeah, with nobody else really pushing on the side except for all Helpless over there. He's going to find himself on 6 feet under. Steve-O once again doing the same old, looking to push up in the spawn, make an impact. Problem is, buddy, none of your teammates are alive, so that's going to go ahead and put yourself into an overtime scenario. And the way the lives have diminished down for both sides, I want to say that West Virginia probably has themselves the defense when it comes around to this, which is a big problem for Shenandoah, saying that, I mean, they've found so many different avenues to be working with when it came around. Actually, excuse me, Shenandoah is on the defending side. So this is a much different story here. Back and forth is going to be the name of the game. You end the entire thing in overtime in the same place that you started on. So if anything to go by, I'd say you have yourself a pretty good lead here to work yourself to the end.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. And right now, Helpless, he still has a strafing run in hand, but Shenandoah will be on the defending side, so they're in a much more comfortable position. Unfortunately, though, Sid throws away his life with the jump, loses that one. Now, Sierra gets a 2-piece, looks for the 4th, And he does find it. Now he's on a 7 streak, I seem. And that's 8. Make that 8. And it's going to be pretty good for him. And make that 9.
Good
for the 10th and loses his life.
Even then, in the meantime, the fact you're slaying out that much, just moving across the map, and your teammates have already capitalized on it, we are seeing a completely different West Virginia. Able to actually capitalize on their teammates' play, able to push up the map, but somebody goes ahead and gets overzealous saying, you know what, if he dies, he dies. Well, if he gets kills, he's getting kills, and that's giving you free time on site. Thing is, West Virginia's just throwing their lives out the windows. They're saying, look, if they were all going to get kills like that back in spawn, let's all go back to spawn and see if we can do it. Nobody's going to get that same amount of success, and nobody's going to be on site to capitalize some time as well. You're not going and you're not following the same formula, making your job for your team a heck of a lot harder when you're all pushing around a site, just locking down spawns. You can't play the game of lives all day because now overtime is not going to factor in anything else. So now, being at 20 to 18, that life differential being a lot smaller than what it was just a second ago, West Virginia needs to find some time here on this B side. Otherwise, none of that's going to matter.
Gotta know that will matter indeed. And 19-18 in terms of the life count, and Steve-O gets some nice shots in, gets the kill, but Ethan will be able to trade him out immediately. 17 to 17. That lead, Mick, it was a shining light, but right now it's back to the 17 and 17 with a minute left. Shenandoah still comfortably sitting on their defense.
I don't know if comfortably is going to be the best term to really describe it, because Shenandoah still has a little bit of competition here. As you already see Bruford trying to push up in the side of the map, trying to find the right kills and trying to push into that spawn, as well as he's going to go for the edge and not even really touch that site to give away the fact that he's there. But that stun will do enough work on its own, but still finds the respective kill there. Now being on a 3 spree, falls a little bit instantaneously, but at the same time, the rest of the team was touching the site, at least for a little bit. You didn't have a double stack. Things went very, very slowly. Creates a very easy answer here for Shenandoah to go ahead and diminish that time once again. But here it goes. Mr. Todzik on the flank. This could be a huge impact so long as he just finds at least 3 or 4 to make that life differential into their advantage, but instead falls a little bit short.
Yeah, with 25 seconds left right now, looks as though the play comes in. The play call not going to be too big of an effect, but 3 down for the side of West Virginia. They will need to move in very fast, and Ethan slides out very nicely, but Toxic, he's hopping in, and he loses his life to Ethan. Ethan stays up. Sid, he's going to be the shining light here, but he is unfortunately going to get taken down. So Ethan's still up, but helpless. Oh my goodness, able to maneuver his way into the site. 10 seconds left right now, and there's only one player who can test this hill, and that's Sierra. He gets the kill into Steve-O, helpless as well. He's going to stay up. He does see that. He needs to maybe bide some time for his teammates. It's a 4-4, Mick. And it looks as though the West Virginia are up now. 3-3, though.
Extremely close. It all comes down to whether or not you can find the right kills. And even then, you see so many players sitting at the church. Mr. Toxic sitting at the top of that P5 as well, trying to find the right kills. But even then, nobody made the push on the site with only 4 seconds left. And Shenandoah find themselves a lead in this series.
Oh my gosh, that was insane. I thought he was going to be able to get that kill, but it came down to the timer again. Oh my gosh, my heart was just sinking. But West Virginia, they were so close. It looked like they had a shining light there for quite a while to be able to take that attack. But once again, just that defense being the name of the game and being so dominant.
I mean, every single time it's obviously going to come down to the defense, and that's kind of as close as it gets when you're on the offense, when you're going ahead and making your way onto a site. I mean, West Virginia, they had themselves a pretty good lead for multiple occasions in that round, but there was just so many times they didn't capitalize on it. The first time they did, when you had a player pushing up into spawn, able to find like 3 or 4 kills there, you're like, sweet, we can just triple stack this and find ourselves a free site. Where was that effort again? It was to never be seen. You sat there and saw all these players trying to cash in on that same mentality and say, let's push up, let's grab these kills. Thing is, who's going to be on site? You can't have one player on site. That is I feel like a necessity. You can never have one player on site. One player on site is to make sure the timer goes longer, because you're never going to find a full tick off that. 2 players on site is if you're actually looking for some progress. If you're looking to find yourself an actual tick or 2 and make sure the game goes that much closer to being to a closing position. But we never saw that effort out of West Virginia again. It was just guy after guy after guy after guy. Keep on mentioning how I sit there and say that in singulars, not plurals. It was one player there every single time, and nobody really found themselves having that outstanding effort. But with the entirety of that control, there was a lot of kills to go down with it going to 5 rounds, and I want to take a look at that as well to see really who had the most impact, at least on each side.
Yeah, and you look right there on the side of the Mountaineers for West Virginia. Bruford, 42-27 with 34 non-traded kills. Then we hop over to the side of Shenandoah, and we got to tip it to Steve-O. He went 46-31. That was insane to see from these guys. Both sides playing their heart out, but if you look at just the kills and the way that the ticks were counted, yeah, Shenandoah were definitely the ones to take it.
And look at those defense skills for the likes of Shenandoah. 29-29 for Helpless and Steve-O comparative to the top slayer of those defensive kills for out of Bruford. I mean, you obviously could tell that they stepped up something eventually, and they were kind of guaranteed to win themselves out this control, looking at the standing and how everything played out. But an even bigger problem is looking at the damage, how there just wasn't enough crossfires. There wasn't enough assists from every single one of these players. But all things said and done, that's our control, and that's all she wrote. I mean, we sit there, we don't have another one coming in the series, but as a follow-up, we still were guaranteed here this map 4, which is going to be this Bocage hard point. This is where things got to stand up, because I made a little bit of a bet earlier on, kind of saying that whoever wins themselves this third map, they're going to win the fourth as well. They're going to be a little bit more heated up. They're going to have the momentum on their side, and looking at those two players from the likes of Shenandoah really stepping up and finding those necessary kills, I think that's going to translate over into hardpoint as well. We're saying Bocage, this is nitty gritty. This is constant action. We are going to follow through with this, and we can go ahead and close out this entire series with it.
Yeah, this is the scrapyard. This is where you're going to get down and dirty, gloves off. And with the way that I can bet how West Virginia is feeling right now, oh yeah, they're ready to throw some punches. But with Shenandoah, they did really well that last one. So they're going to be still feeling strong about themselves. And with Bocage being just so mixy and so insane, you know, the sub play being such a huge part of it, I think we'll definitely be able to see maybe Shenandoah hold it for another one, like you said.
And I think it's going to be pretty close. I mean, looking at the way West Virginia won themselves that last hard point, I mean, the point differential really wasn't all that massive. Sure, I mean, everybody's going to sit there and say, oh, it was 60 points. It's pretty freaking big. That's only one side. Keep that in mind. I mean, it's with only one game, and we saw West Virginia hold an entire side there at one point, and even then just capitalizing on it. I want to say that was just Shenandoah not stepping up there at the end, not able to find the necessary time, because there was just two stages where they had to grab themselves a third of the side, and they never even touched the side. They just contested it every single time. But we got to see a different story here. Bocage, you don't have to run nearly as far to get to the next site. There's not as much influence on the mid because it's not more of a zigzag pattern as you see on Gavutu. Instead, it's just very across the map. It's almost like, I would say, drawing a star like you are in kindergarten. You're running on these different angles. You're running from house to house. You're really just making your rounds almost like you're a Tupperware salesman in the 70s.
Yeah, right now, I'm thinking about just the side of West Virginia, because like you mentioned, once you mentioned that they did win that first hard point, I started thinking of possibilities, you know, where it's going to be, you know, maybe a much more sub-dominant gameplay. And Bruford, like we see right here immediately, I was going to say, going to have to shift his gameplay focus. So with the sub coming out, I'm excited to see this trade-off happen, but it looks as though Shenandoah will hold the hill for now.
Most definitely will. A great little start here for Shenandoah to only grab 4 seconds, though. So, I mean, you're in these beginning stages. You're not even really worried about the site. You don't care about it. You're looking for as many kills as you can to go ahead and create that space. See if you can reset these spawns, find yourself a wipe, find yourself a streak, do whatever you can to make sure to set up the rest of the map. But because the first point is more of a bloodbath than an actual just objective game mode as you typically see. It feels almost like search and destroy. You find the kills, then you make the play, then you make the plant, then you make the move onto the site. So Shenandoah looking to capitalize on it. West Virginia trying to contest to it. But instead, Shenandoah able to find themselves in the majority of this first point, but that doesn't even matter anymore. You only have 7 seconds left. You got to start rotating this B2, which can be set up, and West Virginia's already looking at it.
Yep, greatly done, and Bruford, nice two-piece right there, but nice trigger discipline. Finds one, finds the second, and there you go, finds the third. Now that's going to open up that middle sight, but this is Bocage. The moment they go down, you got to, you know, not even be able to take a breather because they're going to be reared back to go, and that's what we're seeing right now. Sierra. Very nicely done. Steve-O still moving into the mid. Finds two. Gets to the third. Finds it. And the fourth. Oh. He's looking for the fourth kill. And he does not find it. Toxic is ready to go.
Even then, Steve-O biding so much time there for the rest of the team. Nobody to really grab a lot of points on top of that to make sure this game got evened up because there's only 26 seconds left on this site. Even then, West Virginia has turned things around, already got themselves back onto it, able to accumulate some more time. Now putting Shenandoah into a 16-point deficit. Not all that massive, not really too concerning, but how nitty-gritty this map is going to come down to scraps and how much of that you can hold. And Shenandoah looked for the scraps here on P2. You got a teammate trying to look for that rotation on the P3, which can be toxic, but he's going to fall as well right after a quick exchange. So you need to make sure to make this impact. You've got to get yourself to the other side of the map very, very quickly. And at that, it looks like even then, towards being in the center, right here inside this house, P3, I want to say, is the bloodiest point of them all. Because it is inside, you can nade things out, you can stun it, whatever. Then you have a collapse with all four of your teammates saying, screw it, let's just rush in. And even then, you may not have to do that with Sid and Toxic going off. Being a dynamic duo over respect right now, and everybody having a streak except for Steve-O, who just fell.
Yeah, and right now, you do see the Volt coming out for the side of Shenandoah. Experimental gameplay at its finest. Sid looking into the site, and he knows that his teammates are there to clear it out. So it's squad spawns. Sid is very smart here and showing us that his awareness is none other, because that was a great kill. And it just immediately, was that a 360 or a 180?
I don't think it really matters, honestly. I mean, this game's moving so fast, I can't really keep count of everything, but I can keep count of Steve-O's kills. Already finding 3 so far, making it now a 6 spree as he finds that 4th. That's almost a wipe, and he's going to keep it going. Man is on fire. Get the rotations in. He's going to keep you covered.
Yeah, he's on a 7 spree right now. The guy's going insane, full streaks in hand, and he's just absolutely holding it for his team. Finds the 8th, finds the 9th, but the 10th. Oh my goodness, come on, just give us a 10th already, man. We've seen so many 9s tonight. But hey, that was beautiful out of Steve-O. 16 and 7. That's going to be able to give his team a bit of some hill time. But as I say that, Steve-O comes back in for a 3 spree again.
Once again, another little bit of an inside point to be working with, but it doesn't even matter. Steve-O found himself 3 kills before falling there almost instantaneously, but the rest of the team make sure to capitalize on that. Able to go ahead and find a little bit of time, but a little bit of contention is going to be more up your alley as they go ahead and see West Virginia still within skipping distance to get themselves back on the site. But Steve-O, once again, going off. This guy is on fire. He is feeling himself. Literally, somebody follow up on him. Go ahead, play butt buddies, and sit there and find some more time with this, because he has so many kills right now. He's created so much time in respawns alone that how have you not found yourself at that 100-point threshold yet? With only 7 seconds left in this last side, you need to start looking at rotations. Get right back over to P5 and see what work you can put in.
Yeah, see what work indeed with 56 to 90 right now. Helpless, nicely done. Immediately finds that player off rotation, and he's looking for another 11 and 9. He's doing pretty okay for himself, but he's gonna get shot from the back by Sierra. And now Sid, he's looking for this player in the bottom of Granny's. He knows that there's a glide bomb coming in, and unfortunately that's not gonna be able to get anybody. But Sid, nice 2-piece there, uses it, but unfortunately one of those is on his teammates.
Yeah, finally playing time is going to be like to Shenandoah. Finally playing time is going to be Shenandoah. Able to go ahead, finally double up the score because of how many kills you have on your team.
What?
That needs to translate to something. And there you go, translating into time, translating into more plays, translating into double the amount of time is going to be enough to really sit there and give yourself a massive lead and at least a little bit of breathing room if you're going to go ahead and slack on one side or the other. But West Virginia, almost like a batch of mosquitoes, constantly being right there, constantly being where you don't want them, able to go ahead and create some more time or at least fight you here and there, but it's never going to be enough to put you down. Instead, it's just going to go ahead and stall you a little bit more as they grab some more time, but even then, it's not enough to really have that much of a fighting impact yet. So 64 to 119. Shenandoah now being the first onto that P1. Once again, it's a rotation or the reset comes out, but right here in the middle of the map, West Virginia has a closer setup.
Indeed, second set rotations now in effect. You see right here, Mr. Toxic looking for one of these players to help out, but Steve-O still going big. He does get taken out towards the top of the church. Ethan, 4 HP. Thinks that he can take the child, but hey, you gotta tip the mentality, am I right? But gets taken down instead. Toxic now holding up this position. This has just been a trade position right here, being able to help out the squad as much as possible. Helpless, fortunately gets taken down, but hey, Shenandoah, 138 to 65 is not a bad stat line as we head into PT rotation.
Oh, are you kidding me? It's most definitely not. Steve-O is on fire right now. The second fragger in the lobby is going to be Toxic. We really haven't had too many sprees out of him, but he's already on a 5 spree right now. So he has a glide bomb in hand, and even then with that experimental weapon, it's still doing its job. I mean, everything at the end of the day shoots bullets. If you have the right reaction time, if you have the right setup, if you have the right cross, you grab that first bullet, anything is possible. But Instead, anything that could also be possible is a comeback here for West Virginia. They find themselves trying to get on that site, trying to get a little bit more time, but even then, nobody's touching it right now as the moment stands, and Shenandoah are still in an 80-point differential being in the lead. So Zero trying to go ahead and lock down those spawns, see what kind of advantage they can grab for the rest of the team to make going back to that site a lot easier. Problem is, if you're trying to get back to the site by setting up those spawns, you need to at least touch it initially, and there it is, finally getting on with 30 seconds left.
Yeah, 30 seconds being a bit of a fight, but it looks as though that's going to be a 4 down. Immediately, West Virginia, they got back onto the site. That fight, while it was a good one for the side of Shenandoah, they are going to need to rotate here. Bruford, he's watching over this mid cut. He does see a bit of a movement towards Zag, and that's going to be a big one for Sid. 4 down, that's a 4-for-1 trade. And now they even grab just the last 10 seconds of this scrap, because right now, Steve-O, he's been a slayer, 32 and 17. And I was going to say, if he could definitely stay up and just get some kills and force that spawn back, but it's not going to be a problem because he does have Sid in the mid here, and he's going to need to go big.
And even then, I mean, Steve-O with 33 seconds of time on the clock. I mean, you see the rest of the team stepping up. Toxic also being that secondary fragger with 1 minute and 2 right now. Guys doing a lot better of a job of kind of doing both into the spectrum, doing a job everywhere and being a lot more diverse and where he's really allocating his time. But Steve-O still having 33 seconds at the top fragger. That's really impressive. You never see that out of your top slayers. They're saying, you know what? If I have as many kills as it is, I'm just going to play around with this game. You guys touch the site, I'm going to go keep slaying. I'm going to keep on having fun. Meanwhile, y'all just be my point man. Well, that's not the case here. Finally going ahead, touching the side as well, doing everything necessary. It's creating a pretty good lead here for the likes of Shenandoah. Not a massive lead by any means, but still more than an entire site for West Virginia to have to hold down flawlessly. As Shenandoah get themselves to almost that 200-point threshold, I would just go ahead and round up and say they're sitting at it, because the way they're running this game right now is looking pretty darn good.
And they do have rotation here. Helpless, being last man alive here, will be surrounded for now. The contest comes in. Sierra's going to be the one to try and chow him, but hey, great shots coming in from Bruford. He gets that 2-piece. Steve-O, nice one. Able to immediately follow up for the trade. And Sid, very nicely done. Great movement out of the young gun. Goes in now, like you said, they're at the 200-point threshold, 118 to 205. It's going to be a 100-point game here pretty soon. And Toxic, nice 2-piece with the Volt. This is just great experimental gameplay, showing that there is some variety in our gun pool this year.
Yeah, we finally get to see another weapon besides the MP40 and the old automaton go off, but even then, we're just looking more at players just looking outstanding. Toxic, Steve-O, Helpless, all feeling themselves, having 25+ right now, comparative to the likes of West Virginia, which also has some pretty darn good slayers. I mean, we've seen Bruford able to go ahead and slip himself into contention to get into that lead, but even then he's only matching up against the likes of Toxic, while Sid is just kind of, I don't really know, only having 49 seconds, not really having too much sight time, and not really having nearly as many kills as well. So I would say put this man on respawn mode right now. See if he can get across the map, see if he can be on the outside, see what kind of mosquito he can be in his own right, but it may not even matter that much. With only 23 seconds remaining here for Shenandoah, they can just go ahead, hop onto this last site, hold things down, and have one flashy exit for themselves.
Yeah, and Sid's play right there towards mid was essential. Nice 2-piece, but Toxic, well, it was very admirable to try and, go for the trade in case he died. He will be staying up. Mr. Toxic, though, very nicely done. AR work coming in big there, but going to get shot from the back by Helpless. And Bruford immediately coming in with the shots, too. But, Mountaineers from the West Virginia, they will hold the rest of this hill, but you can't give any time left. With these 13 seconds, that'll put them at 240 to 155, and right now we're rotating back to a third set of rotations.
Oh, even then, you get that last second where you didn't touch, but even then, you may have just exactly enough time. There it is to hold out to 240. So 155 now to 240. It's right here back to P1, where Shenandoah had such a great stance in the last reset, but this time around, it's West Virginia on top. They have to play some flawless. I mean, I'm talking literally flawless hard point at this stage of the game, because sure, it's still 9 points and you expect that one little point of window, but looking at the way Shenandoah is slaying out right now, you have to find the right timing here and there, and there's Bruford able to find it. Ethan and Mr. Toxic all finding one respectively, making somewhat of a wipe right here. Shenandoah just looking to go ahead and find some kind of alternate avenue, and there it is. Toxic looking for a flank, looking to move through the middle, looking for that kill there on the side, but it just doesn't come out. Looking to capitalize on top of that as well as West Virginia, finding a little bit of time here and there, but 20 seconds still remaining. Keep in mind, Shenandoah only needs 7.
Yeah, they only need 7 here, and Steve-O will be able to get a bit of a hold. 246, 247, and Steve-O, he knows that the player's in the barn. He's going to try and help out here as best he can, rat in hand. It looks as though 248 will be what we have for now. We got to hit this rotation. 2 seconds only needed for the side of Shenandoah. And, well, West Virginia, they'll hold on for another hill till now.
And even then, I'm kind of surprised Shenandoah didn't just go ahead and set up on the P2 to grab literally 1 second of time here on the get-go. But that's exactly what they did. They heard the praises. They have answered them as well. They found themselves a series win here tonight as they go up 3-1. Find the conclusion here on top of that hard point here in Bocage to follow up with that control they found in Tuscan. So a great standing here for them tonight to keep their win streak going, looking a heck of a lot better now. I'd say still a little bit rocky, but then again, West Virginia's nothing to be slept on.
Yeah, West Virginia definitely had some tenacity, stamina, but unfortunately, when it came down to it, Shenandoah were just having that much better factor when it came to popping off and working as a slaying unit. Let's look at those stats to find out the slaying that went down in this map specifically, because it was something to note. And my goodness, it was just insane just looking at it right now.
It most definitely is. I mean, we sat there, obviously, are going to put a lot of the influence on Steve-O here. Able to go ahead and find 46 seconds of time, matching almost that of Sid, but doing literally almost twice the work when it comes around to the slaying power. Able to go ahead and grab so many kills, 30 of those being non-traded on top of the 11 that were. You're not really too concerned about that. Finding that 9 streak, finding that strafing run, finding that glide ball. Meanwhile, just locking out the Mountaineers to where they don't even hit that 200-point threshold. Things got a little bit sketchy there towards the end, but regardless, you still put it out at the end of the day. And Toxic is nobody to be slept on either, because the man was grabbing so much time holding down those sites. Meanwhile, you had Steve-O just going ahead and running about.
Yeah, Steve-O was absolutely insane. Toxic helped him out indeed, but you got to really tip it to the main man, the OBJ. Toxic, 1 minute and 39 seconds with a KD like that. Man, you know, it's one thing to get kills, but it's also another thing to work for the hill for those points. And it was a very much earned win from the side of Shenandoah.
Most definitely was. And even then, it all got a little bit scratchy there because we saw in that first map, West Virginia pulled that out. But we expected them to kind of turn things around here, able to step into that hard point again. But once again, I called it. And that control, whoever sits there and starts slaying off, whoever wins that control, they're going to double down and find themselves a hard point as well, because both of those maps are very SMG centric. Sure, we saw some flanks try to come through. We saw some crazy plays try to come out on those attacking sides. But at the end of the day, when you see an SMG player go ahead and start to warm up, those SMG players are all about movement. They're all about momentum when it comes around to physicality. They translate that into game as well, because you even saw it right here. Steve-O having a very, I would say, average performance, a little bit more of an average performance. I mean, not outstanding by any means, but still going ahead and getting that barrel hot. So when they went ahead and found themselves in a hard point, he said, this is my playground, baby. I'm going to kill whoever runs into my sight line. I'm going to do it time in, time out, and I'm going to make sure you really just don't have the funnest time playing this.
Exactly. And I can definitely say for West Virginia, it was not a fun time when Steve-O was on that ringer. But let's look at our roadmap from tonight, where we went, where we came from, what we saw. You know, we came and we conquered, and, well, Shenandoah were our conquerors here. First map going to the side of West Virginia, 250 to 191. That was a pretty decisive one, but then immediately we got to the search and destroy. It slowed down. Shenandoah were able to think methodically and brought it to a 6-3 victory. Then, to control, it got dicey. It was a back and forth, but defense being the name of the game, Shenandoah took that one. Then, towards the hard point of Bocage, the scrap yard, where the gloves were off, we were going mano-y-mano, and Shenandoah showed us the tenacity, the strength that they have, and they won that one, 250 to 182, being the winners with a 3-1 series win.
Yeah, say I'm a little bit disappointed we didn't get to kind of lap things back around and go into a desert sea search and destroy, but it's not all that big a deal. We still got ourselves a pretty good series, I would say, overall, with all the stat lines being fairly close in terms of these two teams when looking at every single one of the maps. But at the end of the day, Shenandoah closing things out at such a small margin that it really doesn't shut West Virginia out by any means. Sure, the record isn't going to be as impressive now because they had themselves a loss, but in the division and with Split 2 coming up here, I would say fairly soon, things are going to be in a massive switch up. I mean, I feel like all these rounds right now really just show the top contenders and which teams are looking good, and show which teams really just need to go ahead and be cut out so we can have ourselves some real action. And Shenandoah has shown that they can definitely step things up and that they got to go ahead and play a heck of a lot more scrims coming up here soon, because obviously there's going to be some changes coming through. I've even sat there and probably heard some allusions of new maps coming into the pool here, I'd say, within the coming weeks as well, which could also be a huge factor. So I want to see teams hitting those scrims, going ahead, playing each other as much as possible. And next week, every single team looking darn near CDL prepared.
Yeah, there's Casablanca being the name of the game for our maps that may be added, but it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, next week's going to be an interesting one, Mick, for sure.
It most definitely will, because as I mentioned, last week will be the last week, or next week will be the last week of Split 1. So things are going to get hectic, things are going to get hot, things are going to get heavy. But which teams can sit there and go ahead and put all that weight on their back and carry it along? Because we definitely saw Steve-O do it here tonight. Thing is, he's going to do it next week. So make sure to go ahead and join us once again next Monday and Tuesday, same time, same place. But as it stands right now, we're going to be sending things out. We'll see y'all here next week.